Hi, everyone. I'm going to talk to you today about everything we touch. And before you all think that we are going to be talking about tactility or the science of touching, we're not going to be talking about that. We are going to be talking about the things and the items that we touch every day. Just for a moment, imagine everything that you touched yesterday. Can you think about that? About every single thing that you touch since the moment that you woke up to the moment that you went to bed? So before I tell you that, I need to give you a little bit of background of why I talk about everything we touch. So I'm myself an industrial designer and an ethnographer. And I have spent the past 23 years of my life doing ethnographic research for all the major companies in order to understand and anticipate behavior. And I have done this since, you can see the videos that are on the top, they are being recorded in tape. I used to have a little Sony Handycam. And then the ones I do these days are like more documentary style. But I always, as an ethnographer, immerse myself in the life of others. So I'll be working on projects for the development of toys, cars, mobile phones, speakers, and I'm always immersing myself in the life of others to understand how they do things. So, for example, here I'm in India studying household care and maintenance, how people look after their homes. Here I am, actually that's in Germany, in Berlin. Here I'm studying for a car company. What does it feel to drive a performance car? And of course, in order to do that, I needed to go on the Autobahn with the people that drive those cars. And it goes on. Here is high fashion, IKEA, you can see there, world major brands, even motor oil, beauty routines in Tokyo, even and sometimes goes from hardware to how two children are still struggling to figure out what HDMI 1 and HDMI 2 and how to get the TV working, to things more like emotions, like I just explained. And the beauty of this type of work is like you are always immersing yourself in the life of others. So you see life from a different point of view. So I have done this for like the world's major brands that I will show you in a second, but the beauty of it is sometimes people think that ethnography is about empathy, that it's about making sense of others, but it's actually about making sense of how others make sense. It's not about saying, oh yes, a typical guy that gets excited because he drives a fast car. It's about being there and understanding why it feels in relation to your values, your beliefs, your motivations. So I show you the slide for the type of people that I have done research for and I'm still doing. And I'm showing you this to see the diversity that I can go from Dior to Castrol from 1 month to the other. And these are the type of projects that I've done in the past years. And the first 12 years of my career, I worked at design consultancy Seymour Powell in London as head of user research and director of futures. And the past 12 running my own research practice. And these are all the type of things that I got to study, like from frozen food to mobile working to jewelry, injecting devices, deodorant, anti-aging, and the list goes on. But something that is happening to me lately, and is a symptom of the past, I would say, 5 or 6 years, nobody asks you for the design of a product anymore. Nobody says, I want to design speakers or a remote control. People ask you about the future of. So a brief that in the past could have been, we need to design a new TV system, these days will be the future of entertainment. Or if it was about computing and mobile devices, will be the future of productivity. And in a way, that's right, because people are future-proofing themselves for what they want to design and not just setting it in a hardware box. But on the other hand, I'll invite you to, every time that somebody asks you for the future of something, there is a hidden truth, which is they don't understand the present. Because the person that doesn't know what the future is because he's confused about where they are standing. So the beauty of ethnography is that it helps you understand that present, not from your only point of view, but from the point of view of others, which helps you build a better projection of that future, because it's not only your own perspective. So we get here. So that's my background, and this gets intercepted, all this commercial work that I just mentioned and all those brands, by a very own project of mine, completely independent, called Everything We Touch, that I started in 2013, and it was published by Penguin Random House in 2015. And the idea of this is like, I just wanted to see the world without filters. I didn't want to see people as consumers of mayonnaise, mobile phones, or users of handbags. I just wanted to see life untouched and unfiltered. And something else that happened to, well, sorry, I'm just going ahead of myself. But this is what I did. The idea of everything we touch is that I gather every single thing that a person touches in one day, and I put it in a canvas of 2.70 meters high by 4 meters. So imagine me working on this stage on the floor. And I put everything that you touch in one day in chronological order, from dawn to dusk. And this is me in Tokyo putting together a life of a drag queen, a 60-year-old drag queen in Tokyo. And these are all the things that she touched in that day. And the idea is like it goes, it reads like a book when it's finished. And the things that drove me to do this were also realizing that semantics and usability were getting out of sync. So in the old days doing research, if I show you any of these products, it's obvious for you what the person is doing, right? Some horseshoeing tools and a vacuum cleaner and a tripod, trainers, a camera, a blender. You more or less can gather the action of the person behind that object. But when I show you these, the possibilities are infamous. So the person using that device could be booking a holiday, working, watching a TV program, having an argument with somebody, enjoying meditation. So as a researcher, it also became harder to assume that because somebody is using certain object, therefore they are doing X. And this idea kind of made me think around 2013 when I started the project, like how many things are disappearing? I did a project in 2007 on fax machines. Who has that these days? So how those products are disappearing from our life. And that took me to think that it was time to create a time capsule of how we live. And then I play with the idea, like everything we know about past civilizations is informed by their objects, the objects that we found. So if somebody in the future was to make sense of your lives by the objects that you are touching today, what are they going to learn about you and what not? And then I also, as a researcher, I had a little bit of fatigue of traditional market segmentation. And I just wanted to reduce that bias of looking at people on my interviews because they are either a consumer of X, a target consumer of X, or a rejecter of X. So I just didn't want to think that way anymore. I just wanted to talk to doctors, musicians, chefs, cowboys, children. And this is a photo from in the spring this year. I spent a month in China working for one of the world's leading fashion brands. And I was interviewing this person, obviously, about the role of high-end luxury products in her life. And this was really interesting, of course, but as a researcher, I'm exploring that invisible space between that brand or product and the person I'm operating there. But it's so much different when I do what people touch in one day, because any of those bags will be at the same level in a canvas as your Tupperware. So because you also touch it, and you touch cling film, and you touch other things that are more insignificant. So for me, the interesting thing is when I'm talking to you about your life and I ask you questions such as, what makes you feel powerful? And then on the answer, what makes you feel powerful, you may pick that. But it's coming from a different space rather than inside there. So I'm going to show you a film. It's a 3-minute film that tells the story of this project. And after the book was published, I changed the name from Everything We Touch to Future Archeology, because I wanted to play with the idea of what future generations will learn about us.
I am Paula Zuccotti. I am an industrial designer, ethnographer, and trends forecaster. As an industrial designer, I work with objects and systems. As an ethnographer, I always immerse myself in the life of others. As a trends forecaster, I anticipate and predict change. I have traveled the world observing behaviors, emotions, interactions to understand how we do things and how we feel. I always find myself in a different place. And the beauty is in what you see and what you make of it. I see objects as clues, as storytellers that reveal insights into how we live our daily lives.
When you just look at the artifacts of somebody's life, it is very much what an archaeologist does, right? I mean, they dig up stuff, and just from a shard of pottery, they could sometimes tell a lot about the civilization that lived. So, in lieu of having these things as artifacts, maybe future generations will find this kind of thing very interesting, I think.
Future Archeology is a wider project that spins off from my first book, Everything We Touch. The premise of Everything We Touch is, can we make sense of someone just by looking at all the objects that they touch in one day and let their physical footprint tell me their story?
You could easily relate to other people through objects. Being able to understand that at an individual level, I think is a brilliant exercise.
Sometimes I think you learn how deep is reality for the other ones, how complex is like everyday living. As you get closer, everything gets more complicated. So from de cerca, nadie es normal.
But it's the fact that it's all at once. You just go, there it is. It gives you a perspective that you'd never normally get. You never see life that way.
If one does do what you've done and get people to collect the objects together of their one day in their life, anything that documents a specific moment of an individual has an incredible value.
When I see this, my first reaction is that visceral one, my God, this is beautiful, which encourages you to go in and have a look. And then when you go in and have a look and start to analyse what's gone on here, then the second word that comes to mind is it's absolutely fascinating.
Spanning from a cowboy in Tucson, Arizona, to a nun in Madrid, to a 1-month-old baby in London, and a 71-year-old puppeteer in Shanghai, I travel the world photographing the physical footprint of friends and complete strangers. Our everyday interactions are changing, and so is our physical footprint. And I want these photos to offer us a template to reflect on our future. I'm on a quest to create a time capsule of our lives. This is Future Archeology.
Thank you. So, and this is kind of like the new map that I'm creating for myself of the places where I'm actually not looking at one specific product, but about what people touch in one day. And this is the youngest person I photographed so far. Baby Arlo, 1 month, and Lou, 72, a puppeteer in Shanghai. So I'm going to show you some of the photos. So this is a photo of my mom, and this photo was taken in 2013. My mom lives in Buenos Aires, where I'm from. If you were wondering, a Spanish accent with Italian name, sometimes that makes an Argentinian like me. And so this is everything that she touches from the moment she wakes up. So there are many objects here. This photo is from 2014, actually. There are many objects here that are pretty much almost extinct. Can you find them? Can you name some objects that we rarely touch these days? I can't hear? CDs, very good. Well, let's start with alarm clock. So my mom wakes up with an alarm clock. And of course, we all do, but many of us have our alarms in our phones. And then she turns on the radio. She lives alone, so she turns on the radio, and then she goes to the kitchen and turns on the other radio that she has in the kitchen because she doesn't have interconnected devices or invisible radios with speakers. You know, she goes through the day, chews, feeds the cat, goes to the toilet, makes Argentinian mate, breakfast, gets ready to go to Pilates, goes out. Money. How many people touch physical notes as part of our daily life? You know, as actually touching notes. That's another one. And here, a fixed telephone line. Who uses that on a daily basis? That object used to be so important to our lives. And in 2014, my mom, which of course her iPhone, I think it was iPhone 4 back then, is still in there. And she had that phone, and it was still relevant for her because some friends would still use it. And I asked her recently, Mom, do you still use that landline? And she says, yes, I use it to find my iPhone at home when I cannot find it. So that's the only purpose of that object. And it was so essential to our lives. And as it was pointed, of course, music, exactly, great point. All of us, or most of us, listen to music every day. How many of us touch it in a physical form? And if you think about media, from books to DVDs to music is such a way of expressing our identity and who we are. And it's not there in physical form. So that's something else that I don't know the music taste of most of the people that I photograph, where like 20 years ago, there would have been the pile of tapes or the pile of CDs that you're very proud to show off. And the day goes on, and here she has a remote control. So how many of us watch TV with a remote control? I bet probably a quarter of the people here use it daily, and more with our laptops or tablets as well as another form of interacting with. Do you remember I was doing research on the days that we had 4 remote controls? We had the TV, the satellite box, the VHS, the DVD, and we had all of those in our coffee tables. That changed too. The peculiar thing about my mom's remote control is she has it covered in cling film because she doesn't want the letters to rub off. So that's the day of my mom as she goes by. And here I have the puppeteer in Shanghai. Interesting thing about this, I mean, you're not so close to look at the brands or anything, but everything that he has here is from China, made in China. Everything, absolutely everything. And this was a day in his life, and he's a folk musician, and he makes these shadow puppets that he makes himself. And if you wonder how this goes, that's a day in his life, and it's every single thing that he's coming across, he's collecting. And then we meet at the studio, and we take the photograph, and that's his wife, and we discuss the day together. But I wanted to show you something in contrast. So that's him, and then after I photograph him, I photograph Nini, a screen printing artist, 28 years old, from Shanghai too. These photos are from 2015, actually. And it's a kind of also a very good mindful and reflective exercise to look at what you touch in one day. But when I was photographing her, she came into the studio, but she also saw the photo that I was taking before, that it was Lou's photo. And she told me something really peculiar. She said, like, oh my God, I feel so good to be part of the new world. And I went, what do you mean? And he said, yes, he's old China, I'm new China, I'm part of the world. And in her words, she was like, I'm equal to old world people. And I went like, okay, what makes you say that? And she saw that reflected in the brands that she was wearing. Like she has Uniqlo jeans and H&M and Vans and a jumper from Cambria, and she reads Baudelaire. And everything about her made her feel that because of that reason, she belonged to a different world to the other person. But the stories go on, so I need to kind of keep passing to the next one. This is one of my favorites. It's a cowboy from Tucson, Arizona. And this is everything that the cowboy touches. And, you know, and I love, this is so iconic about the cowboy, but also you have Colgate, and you have toilet paper, and you have Gillette, and other everyday brands. And what I love about him also are the things that he touches last. So just think about people's unwinding bedtime routines. So here we have a beer, we have Glenlivet whiskey, American Spirit cigarettes, Head & Shoulders shampoo, and Dove men soap. So that's how products and brands come together in the real world, where sometimes if we are working for Head & Shoulders, we tend to think Pantene, right? And we tend to think about the products that live next to Head & Shoulders, either in the bathroom or in the supermarket shelf. But the beauty of this is like you just start to see about those connections and how that product is fulfilling that role of becoming part of somebody's beauty routine, and their neighbors are completely unpredicted in the same way that, not in the same way that you will see the neighbors in the supermarket. And another interesting bedtime routine here is from Mol, a special effects artist from Argentina. That's a fat suit, by the way. That's when you need to make somebody look bigger. And he's a child at heart, 38 years old, but still, you know, has a Star Wars figurines and has a dog and plays Kung Fu. And those are the typical work things that he encounters every day. But he finishes the day with a bottle of champagne, McCain frozen chips, a joint, and goes to bed. So that's another kind of like interesting way of when you remove the layers of how you imagine people to be in an ideal world, you start to see people more similar to you, rather than being that ideal customer or person. It's just somebody way closer to you because that's very similar things. And here we have a 2-year-old girl in Tokyo. So as a toddler, she touched the most. She touched the most because at the age of 2, you just touch out of pleasure and curiosity. You don't have those determined actions. She's the one, her dad obviously helped me record everything because at the age of 2, she wouldn't do it. But it's interesting to see the colors that we give children, right? Like how we define the materials that we give them, the colors that define their words. And this is from Japan, but similar, you have Frozen here. These are Japanese caricatures, but these are more global. Here I put this one from the point of brands. She's Yosor, she's from Iraq and lives in Dubai. And interesting here, look, an Adidas t-shirt, Nike trainers, and Puma socks. People think that that's unthinkable, right? Who cares? Like there is no tension between competitor brands. There is no tension. She's not experiencing a tension because she's wearing brands that are from a different person, company. She just wears them in everyday life. And when you look at things this way, you can just delete those lenses that if I'm looking at her with the Nike eyes or with Adidas eyes. And there are many high-end brands here, like Marc Jacobs, Dries Van Noten, Nicolas Kirkwood, Chloe, etc. But talking to her, I asked her, like, what was the best part of the day? When did you feel your best? And she said, when I was in the car with my friend eating Cheetos. And that was kind of like the highlight of the day. And she's sitting in the car, with all these high-end brands that are supposedly elevating you and making you feel really special. And then at the same time, she also told me how Iraqis eat Cheetos, that is with yogurt and hot sauce. And that's the moment that is the most special. So I love that triangulation between brands and how the new stories and new narratives can emerge when you look at the world this way. Here is Claire, a film director from Los Angeles. And I used to kind of like know Claire, and I always liked her style. And I was thinking, I love her style like what I saw, but I was thinking, what will her towels and tea towels look like? Because here you get to see those parts of life that nobody shows. And actually, they were all curated on the same color palette, which was impressive. Some people have that curation in every single aspect of their lives. Something interesting about this photo, look. This photo also, can you see an iPhone there, computers, cameras? If I show you this photo in 20 years' time, the things that will look outdated to you are actually all the technology on this page. However, the comb, the chopping board, the towel, everything else will look really normal to you. So sometimes we try to think about the future in that way that is kind of like in the technology, and actually in those products is not what the future is. The future is also on those things, and those are the ones that will look here, and they are here to stay. It's unlikely we will change those very soon. Okay, challenge to you. Guess the age of this person. Okay, I heard 14, 13. Why we know it's 13? Because it's one of those moments in life when there is an intersection between the new person that you are becoming, in her case with makeup and hair straighteners and push-up bra, and then goes through college, Starbucks donuts, the jumper of the girl, the boy that she liked, Doritos, but then the day finishes with the piglet, the Sesame Street pajamas, and the blanket. So in the future, this photo will be rendered completely different with the more photos that will come, probably similar to that, and then less of this. And guess the profession of this person. I'm going to give you the opposite. I will give you pointers like natural products like Lush, green smoothie, that brand is a natural makeup too. Vegan food, that's Tempe, she reads Patti Smith. The Lush again, I heard artist, she's into yoga. Okay, she's a tattoo artist. Now, if we did it the other way around, if I told you, create me a lifestyle mood board for a tattoo artist, have you picked those brands and that lifestyle? Or probably you were expecting more rock and roll and the beers and the different type of thing. And that goes back again to Anil's presentation this morning about those perceptions and preconceptions that we have, for which ones traditional market segmentation is also quite guilty of. This is a very more recent photo, and this photo, it actually talks about the time. This one is from 2019. There is a very little plastic on this photo. Everything is really conscientious, and every single purchase is. From the dry shampoo in cubes, bamboo, toothbrush, no clothes from a kind of like high street, all purchased in second-hand stores. There's a laptop here, and it's a laptop sleeve made with life jackets of refugees, and the type of books that she's reading too. And it just talks about also a generation. It just talks about, this is a 19-year-old girl from Nottingham. She's a PhD student. And then also she has this book here that you cannot see, but it's a diary that she created for herself, and it's called a Goosebumps Diary. And the Goosebumps Diary is like she writes on the book every time that something gives her goosebumps. And that's a way in which she keeps on top of her emotions. I think I'm running out of time, unfortunately, but I'm just going to have to perhaps, okay, I have more stories, but I'm going to have to leave it here. Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
That was amazing. That was amazing.